saving on great internet and TV from Spectrum today. Wireless speeds may vary. Restrictions apply. See spectrum.com/save for details. Services not available in all areas.
Now back to EEI Late Night with KJ on EEI.
Guys being tired and kind of a step slow. Then you guys come off that huge win at Charlotte, and you said you jumped them at shoot around for being lacking focus. Why is this team's kind of focus going up and down, in and out so early?
Hard to explain, to your point, this early in the season. As I keep mentioning, guys, we're in and out, and we've got some different lineups, but coming off a huge win, although it was overtime, I don't feel our minutes were too high, and then we had a day off yesterday, so we had a chance to rejuvenate, but for whatever reason, they were lacking in intensity and focus this morning. I've told them they're going to get their ass kicked tonight. You come with that focus in the game, and for 3 quarters, we played the same way. Waited to get down 15 and, started to play with the effort that we have in the other 4 games. So it's disappointing. We'll have a chance at it again on Saturday. If we feel we bring the right intensity, we'll be okay. But you got to show up every night. Can't just pick and choose and show up and think you're going to beat people.
The second hour of WEEI Late Night with KJ. Thank you so much for hanging out. Coach Ime putting the smackdown on the haunted house of horror that's happening right now with the Celtics. Yes, the music themes, the bumper music is celebrating Halloween. I couldn't get dressed up. At some point, you don't get... I think the last thing I dressed up for as Halloween was when the Rick James bit was hot on the Chappelle Show. Like, I had the braids and everything and so forth. And, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap. Happy Halloween. But what a horror show going on with the Celtics. Focus. Those little dream machines? Let's take it back to when the Kyrie story hit. And Marcus Smart kind of retold his experience after a game one night in Boston. I actually thought this year would be tough on Marcus, right? He would take the heavy for not slapping down Kyrie's comments. I do believe that some people who were like, you're giving him $18 million a year, which is right according to the league, but people were thinking like, why did I just trade him? I just felt that the atmosphere was going to be a little bit thicker for Marcus specifically because of how last season ended. But I thought Marcus Smart's number in terms of salary was perfect to potentially get another person in return, if that's what the Celtics were looking to do. But Marcus has been playing defense. I mean, the bad shots are still going up. He's not Steph Curry, Seth Curry, Eddie Curry. That's what he's looking like he's shooting out there. 23% from 3. He's taking 7 threes a game. And his 7 threes per game matches his points per game. It's a problem. But as you heard Coach Ime say, is it the biggest problem? Focus. I said on Twitter, going into the Wizards game, what would be last night, was, hey, this is a real test to see if a team with 2 superstars, I know you may argue that Brown and Tatum are not superstars. I would just say, just look at the whole lay of the land of the league, and you had to put an all-star game together. Tatum and Brown are there. Could a team with 2 all-stars and virtually no help beat a team with 1 all-star who just got a bunch of help? In Kuzma, Caldwell Pope, Montrezl Harrell, who pretty much showed that you eat enough pizza crust, you get hair in your chest at the power forward spot, son. Watch this 20 and 10 on you. But people thought I was crazy at the end of last season when I said that the players were going to request that Brad Stevens hire a black head coach for this team. It should be the best man for the job. I heard that. I'm like, a lot of those Southern guys that came up after that 1865 thing. Hey, can I help build some of this Industrial Revolution stuff? You're not the best man for the job. I just built an entire section of the world. Okay, I've been reading a lot of books on tape lately doing that. But look, Ime is idealistic for this young team. Not an old head. Someone players could relate to, was on the coaching staff with Team USC basketball, formed a bond with Jason Tatum. Everything was pointing to the car driving in the right direction. But then we start seeing pokes of what we saw in periods and spurts last year. Here's Coach Ime on the defense.
You guys had a lot of trouble in the paint defensively again. What do you think is playing into that?
You said in the paint?
In the paint, yeah.
A little bit of everything, honestly. We had a few different coverages. Transition, they got out a little bit for a team that's not playing at a fast pace. But honestly, guarding the ball individually one-on-one, too many drives. Our weak side isn't coming across. Things that we've been working on and harping on, just didn't show tonight. We got a guy standing right at the opposite block, and he doesn't take a step and just watch somebody lay it up. So lack of effort and focus helped defense as a team was very poor tonight.
So here we are, not even 10% of the games into the season, and Boston, we have a problem. I believe that Brad Stevens is leaving Coach Udoka a blank check on every player on this roster. Those players can either cash that check in or get bounced, no matter who they are. This could be why Danny Ainge had to go. See, because if it was Brad and Danny collectively getting rid of one of the two superstars or both, do you know what the narrative would be? Oh, free agents wouldn't even come here. You couldn't even trade a cheerleader to come here. The word would be bad. The optics, horrible. But if the coach you wanted spoke to the issues associated with the lack of black head coaches in the league, well then, the player gets what they asked for. This is what you said you wanted. We gave it to you. But guess what? Coach may have final say of what really goes on. The both of you. My daughters are 15 years apart. And so naturally you would think the one that's 15 years older would be more adult about her interactions with her 10-year-old sister. Sometimes I have to tell her, like, look, you got it. And then tell the 10-year-old, stand up to her. The both of you. Sometimes you say that to your kids. The both of you. Both Brown and Tatum have to play for this coach. More than the city, almost as much for themselves. Here's why. Ime is now officially an NBA head coach. He's not going to let go of that. And what it'll take to keep the players to either support him is going to either be their effort on the court or management supports what he's doing. This is what you're hearing after these post games where the lack of focus. I see one guy standing over the court, doesn't even take a step. He's taking notes for upper management. It's going to be a fascinating storyline this year. And here's how it goes. The highest value and demand for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is right now. When I say now, I don't mean next week or, next Friday, get rid of them. But more like the clock is now officially ticking and it could get louder. Here's Coach Udoka on the contrast of what he saw from the last game, Jaylen Brown, and this game.
Jaylen has been in a pattern of a good game, an overtime, and then struggling afterwards. Same thing tonight. Is that a function of his knee? Is that a function of coming back from COVID and taking longer to recover? Do you have a sense of what causes that?
No, it's a tough one. I see it as well. I'm trying to ramp him up during the game, pump him up to get going. But the contrast of, some of those previous games, especially Charlotte and the New York game, and then the way you see him come out tonight is kind of mind-boggling. But it could be a number of things. He was out for 10 days, as you mentioned. Was banged up with the knee, but just got to find the juice from the start. And, something that I can help him with, put him in some positions to get going. But when I see that, got to jump on it early and really help him get going.
in management terms is, how can I be of help to you? Let me help you. Help me help you. Uh-oh. Now, look, I didn't lose faith when the Celtics lost to the Knicks in overtime, and even the Raptors game, even though that's going to put a bad taste in the fans' mouth. Hey, I'm here for the opening game. It's the start of the season, start anew, and we lose to Team Canada. I'm sorry. That's all the Raptors are now, pretty much. Anybody who wants to be double taxed and can kind of play basketball, they're in Toronto. I wasn't having dreams of Eastern Conference Finals either when the Celtics beat the Hornets or the Rockets. I mean, the Rockets, that's just above G League right there. But boy, did Montrezl Harrell show the power of dedication, getting under the boards, hustling. It was almost like, sometimes, I don't know, when you go to a Celtics game and you see a guy come in like that's not named LeBron, because you probably never want to see LeBron in a Celtics jersey. But you see Montrezl Harrell, you whisper to the person next to you, or you say next to you, like, see, why don't we have him? Montrezl Harrell exposed what I'd been saying about the Celtics their need to address last year. Justin, you may or may not remember this. While Danny was going to go get Evan Fournier, which is, I don't know, like the equivalent of like adding a fourth lineman.
Gave you like 11 games as well.
My God. It's like, sticking a fourth Bruin out there that's just kind of fancy feast on their ice skates against the Islanders, get punched in the mouth and doesn't score. Instead of getting Evan Fournier, it's like, look, you may need to look at an Andre Drummond, take that flyer for now to see if this is a person who could be a legit third scorer, some nights second scorer, but is always going to be underneath that basket, doing the dirty work, getting rebounds, putbacks, so forth. Now, look, I understand bringing back Al Horford, and you saw it on the court, especially Friday night. Like, wow, you can really tell it's like Al and the kids. Like, follow me, kids. I'll tell you what to do, because you kind of look out of place without a leader out here. And when Al was on the court, what seemed like was fascinating was really just control. He's done a great job showing leadership. But, even though he's been productive, it's just the salary. If you're giving a guy $26 million a year, 14-10, you probably need to make that 20-10. I mean, you're Jaylen Brown gets 28. So Al Horford's really positioned to be like an incredible sixth man in the league right now. It's just that budget to pay him is just astronomically high.
Would be nice if he played on back-to-backs too.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like the curse of that spot right there. It's like you can start naming all the people who are in that budget hole right there. Like this year it's Al. Last year it was Kemba. Before that it was Gordon. So it's very hard to have a guy who's played 3 out of 5 games making $26 million. So even though the bench gets outscored, it still seems out of place. Right now, this is what I see. The starting rotation should be Schroeder, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Williams. Justin, you agree or disagree with that?
I do agree with that, and they kind of lucked out on that Schroeder contract.
Well, I thought that Schroeder was ideal because it's like, okay, this is what Kemba could do on healthy knees. Schroeder has the better knees, but maybe not so much the offense that Kemba has. But you don't need Schroeder to have Kemba's several years ago offense. You just need him to be healthy and be able to play, maybe 5 games off during the season. Maybe.
I was done with Kemba after they weren't playing on back-to-backs to have him ready for the playoffs, and he still was not ready.
Well, the other part of that is, with Kemba, is if you know that a guy is on his way out and you're trying to get something in return for him, the last thing you want to do is have him, slapping his knee on the court like, because then you're going to be sitting there screaming, because you can't trade him. So Kemba being traded twice in the offseason, it really shows why Kemba did not play at the end of last season. But But Schroeder is a different animal in terms of quickness to the basket, willing to distribute the ball. Is he the greatest three-point shooter? No. But does he look better than the other three-point shooters in the backcourt? Yes.
Might be the best on the Celtics, maybe behind Grant Williams at this point.
Oh, gosh. So the only problem with that lineup is the bench scoring is left up to Smart, Parker, and Grant Williams. Now, look, Grant is a lottery ticket. You're like, wow, let me keep rolling this dice. This is great. But if you're expecting Grant Williams to really be a 10-a-night game guy, I don't see that. Just, take the victories where you can get them. But, there are no victories really right now. It's 2 and 3. This is what I mean by, say, pieces are out of place. And it's why I'm saying Jason and Jaylen are on the clock when it comes to staying in Boston. I've said that Brown and Tatum are similar players in the grand scheme of everything. I still believe they're both better together than they are apart, and that's because we haven't seen them apart just yet. And I don't know if you want to see that if you want to see a winning team turned around right away. You remember the bit right just a few minutes ago that Coach Ime was saying the contrast between Jaylen from game to game was mind-boggling? Hear what Jaylen had to say about that comment.
Ime said that it was mind-boggling the way you played against Charlotte in New York versus the way you played against Washington. How do you take comments like that? And kind of what was your reaction when you saw what he said?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Ime came and talked to me about it and yesterday, and it didn't bother me. Like it's mind-boggling to me too. Like I was surprised that my body didn't respond the way it normally responds. Like I'm usually able to have that zip, that pop flying up and down the court, and it just wasn't there. So I think that was obvious. I don't think he was out of line or anything for that. So I got to be better, and I got to get with my medical staff and figure how to get, my body to the point where I recognize it, where I feel normal. Like some days I feel fantastic, and then it's like 2-3 days. It takes my body too long to get back to feeling fantastic again. And that's an issue for me. So as I navigate that, we got to still tighten up on the details, tighten up on our defense, and still find a way to win games. And even though I don't feel the same on the court, I can still be better in certain areas, in detailed in certain areas. And that's more of the conversation that we have.
The spotlight's on Jaylen this year. See, I don't think there's a player that exists in the mind of the Celtics that is a straight-up one-for-one trade piece for Jason Tatum. You could probably argue there's nobody in the league you would offer up, one up, and the Celtics would be comfortable with it to say, yes, Tatum can go, bring that person here. I don't think that person exists.
Maybe Giannis, if that.
But that's not even
if that they might not even take that. I mean,
come on, the factories are already closing in Milwaukee. You want the sports scene to shut down there too? That's not going to happen. But there might be several combinations of players in case of the glass breaking on this team when it comes to Jaylen Brown. Like I said, this is where their value is the highest. And Ime is not going to be the fall guy in any of combinations of errors with this team.